The metallic clang of kennel gates echoed through the Austin Animal Rescue Center, followed by the low hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional bark slicing through the stale air. Most dogs wagged their tails when visitors walked by, but not the one in the back corner. Rex didn't move. He sat perfectly still in his enclosure, ears upright, golden brown eyes trained on the concrete floor like a soldier waiting for orders that never came. For 2 years, he'd been a ghost. No barking, no wagging, no eye contact. He was just there. Staff had tried everything, treats, toys, volunteers with warm voices. Nothing broke through, until today. The front door buzzed open, and Boots stepped onto the linoleum. Tyler Briggs, 28, a recently returned firefighter and army vet, walked in with his hands in his jacket pockets. He wasn't looking for a dog. Not really. He told himself he was just tagging along with his buddy Chris, who was looking for a family pet. But as soon as Tyler crossed the doorway, something shifted. Rex stood. It was the first time in 731 days the German Shepherd had voluntarily moved toward the front of his kennel. The shelter staff froze. "Oh my God," murmured Clara, the shelter supervisor. "He's never done that before." Tyler turned toward the kennel instinctively. The moment their eyes met, he stumbled back half a step. Rex's stare was locked on him, intense, focused, and familiar. "What's his name?" Tyler asked quietly, the words barely leaving his throat. "Rex," Clara said, "but he wasn't always called that. Came in as a stray, no chip. We just named him here." Rex let out a low, throaty sound. Not a growl, not a bark. It was closer to a whimper tangled in recognition. Chris elbowed Tyler. "Man, that dog is staring at you like he knows your social security number." Tyler couldn't speak. His chest tightened. He crouched slowly, lowering himself to eye level with Rex, who didn't flinch. Instead, the dog inched forward until his snout nearly pressed against the steel bars. Tyler reached his hand out, hesitated, then touched the cold metal between them. That's when Rex barked. Loud. Once. A shiver ran down Tyler's spine. It wasn't the bark that unsettled him. It was the tone. That bark had once pierced a battlefield, not a shelter. It was precise, commanding, full of memory. Tyler knew that sound. Not in this life, but in a life just 2 years gone. His mind flashed back to a sandstorm in Kandahar, the firefight, the explosion, the scent of diesel and blood, and a German shepherd charging into chaos to drag him out. "Shadow," Tyler whispered. Rex froze. Then something wild flashed across his eyes, pain, panic, and hope, rushing to the surface all at once. He whimpered again, pawing at the gate. Clara looked stunned. "Wait, did you just say Shadow?" That was the name on his intake paperwork from the first week. Someone had scrawled it in pen on the side of the crate he was brought in with, but it was illegible, so we thought it said Shorty or something. Tyler didn't hear her. He was on his knees now, trembling. The scars on his arms burned like fresh wounds. Rex, no, Shadow, was alive. 2 years ago, during a joint Army and DEA raid in New Mexico, Tyler's sister Emily, an embedded journalist, had been caught in the crossfire of a warehouse explosion. Shadow had gone missing. Everyone assumed he'd perished in the fire. There was never a body, no collar, no answers, just ash, smoke, and silence. Until now. Tyler's voice cracked. "Shadow, sit." The German shepherd obeyed instantly. Chris blinked. "Dude, what the—" "Down," Tyler ordered. Shadow dropped without hesitation, eyes never leaving Tyler's. A moment of stillness passed, so heavy it felt like time itself was holding its breath. Then Tyler broke. His breath hitched, and tears welled. He reached for the latch, but Clara stopped him. "We have a protocol. Screw the protocol," he growled. "That's not some stray. That's a decorated K9 veteran. That's my dog." Clara looked torn but moved aside, Just be careful. He's been unpredictable with everyone." Tyler opened the gate. Shadow didn't leap, didn't bark. He walked out slowly, solemnly, and laid his head against Tyler's chest. His body trembled. Tyler hugged him tightly, dropping to his knees once more, tears soaking into the dog's fur. "He remembers," Tyler whispered. Clara stepped back, hand over her mouth. Chris stared, slack-jawed. Other dogs barked in the distance, but none of it mattered. It was just a man and his dog, reunited in the most unlikely place after the unlikeliest survival. Tyler stood, wiping his face. "I'm taking him home." "But you said you weren't here to adopt," Chris reminded him. Tyler looked down at the German shepherd sitting faithfully at his side. "I wasn't. He just found me." From that moment on, there was no going back. What Tyler didn't know, what no one yet realized, was that Shadow hadn't just survived a fire. He'd escaped something much darker, and someone dangerous knew that the wrong dog had made it out alive. The hunt had just begun. Tyler's truck rumbled down the long stretch of County Road 114 as the sun dipped low behind the Texas hills, burning the sky in streaks of amber and red. In the passenger seat, Rex sat tall, eyes scanning the horizon like a soldier returning to a battlefield. His body was leaner, scarred in places Tyler didn't remember, but the posture, the focus, it was unmistakably him. For a while, neither of them made a sound. Then Rex let out a soft chuff, almost like a sigh, and nudged Tyler's elbow with his nose. "You remember this road?" Tyler asked softly, voice rough from hours of silence and disbelief. "We used to take this drive after drills." Rex's ears perked, his tail thumped once against the seat. As they pulled into Tyler's ranch-style house on the outskirts of town, the porch light flickered on. Emily stood on the steps, arms crossed, brow furrowed. Her blonde hair was tied back, sleeves rolled, camera bag at her side. Always in journalist mode. She didn't smile when she saw Rex. She froze. Tyler stepped out slowly. Rex followed, every movement deliberate. Emily's voice cracked. "Ty, is that—" "I thought he died in that fire," Tyler said. "But he didn't. He's been locked in a shelter this whole time." Rex approached her with careful steps. Then he sat, eyes meeting hers with quiet intelligence. Emily dropped to her knees. "Shadow?" she whispered. Rex whined, a sound like heartbreak wrapped in relief. He nudged her chest, then licked her cheek. Emily burst into tears. Inside the house, Tyler poured whiskey and sat at the kitchen table, staring at a dusty photo frame. Him, Emily, and Rex. Back when things made sense. When the world was dangerous, but the lines were clear. Now everything felt off. "He has scars," Emily said softly, sliding into the seat across from him. "Burns on his left flank. Someone hurt him. Or used him." Emily nodded slowly. "You said they called him Rex at the shelter?" "Yeah, but he responded to Shadow like it never left him." She reached for her laptop and pulled up an encrypted folder labeled Project Indigo. Tyler tensed. "I never told you," she said. "After the raid in New Mexico, I stayed behind for 3 weeks. The fire. That wasn't an accident. That whole warehouse was a cover-up. The people we were targeting weren't just traffickers. They were working with someone inside the government." Tyler leaned forward. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Shadow, Rex, was the only one who made it out with evidence." She tapped a few keys and pulled up a blurred surveillance image. Tyler's eyes widened. It showed a metal crate being wheeled out of the rubble by 2 men in black tactical gear. No markings. "That's him," Emily said. "That's Rex, they took him." Tyler swallowed hard. "But why release him? Why let him end up in a shelter?" "Maybe they didn't mean to. Maybe something went wrong." Just then, Rex barked once, sharp, urgent, from the living room. Tyler and Emily jumped. "Someone's outside," Emily said, standing. Tyler grabbed his sidearm from the drawer. They opened the door slowly. Nothing. Just the wide, dark lawn and the humming silence of rural Texas. Then Rex growled. Deep, low. Not at the lawn. At the window. Tyler turned fast and saw it. A red laser dot danced across the glass for less than a second, then disappeared. They hit the lights. "Sniper?" Emily whispered. "Or a warning." Tyler grabbed his keys. "We're leaving. Grab everything, now!" Within 5 minutes, they were in the truck again. Rex in the back seat this time, watching the road like a sentinel. Emily clutched her hard drive and camera bag like they were oxygen tanks. "Where are we going?" she asked. "There's a cabin near Lake Travis. No cell signal, no neighbors. It's where I go when I don't want to be found." Rex barked once, short and sharp. "What is it?" Tyler asked. Then he saw it. In the rearview mirror, headlights. 2 vehicles. Black. No plates. "They found us," Emily whispered. Tyler slammed his foot on the gas. The chase was on. Gravel sprayed behind them as the truck tore down back roads, twisting through dark woods and empty hills. One of the black SUVs gained on them, closing fast. Rex began barking furiously, slamming his paws against the rear glass. "Stay with me, boy," Tyler muttered. A sharp pop rang through the air. Bullet. The back windshield spiderwebbed. Emily screamed, "We're exposed!" "Get down!" Tyler yanked the wheel, swerving hard into a ditch and up the other side. The pursuing SUV overshot the turn and skidded into a fence. The second SUV wasn't far behind. Rex launched himself forward and began pawing at the glove box. Tyler reached over, popped it open, and grabbed the flare gun tucked inside. He aimed it out the side window and fired. The red flare exploded in the night sky, distracting the second SUV just long enough for Tyler to veer off onto an unmarked dirt trail. The truck bounced violently as they crashed through brush and branches, but it held. After several agonizing minutes, the headlights behind them vanished. Silence again. Just the engine ticking, hearts pounding, and Rex panting in the dark. They reached the cabin just past midnight. Tyler checked every room, every corner, while Emily set up a secure line from her laptop, using a satellite router. Rex stood at the door, staring out into the woods like he expected the night itself to move. "I don't know who they are," Tyler said finally, locking the final window. "But they wanted Rex, and they were willing to kill for him." Emily glanced at the dog, who now lay beside the fireplace, but his ears were still alert. "He's not just a dog anymore," she whispered. "He's a witness." And across town, in a dimly lit office high above the city, a man in a tailored suit looked at a digital map, flashing red. "Subject acquired by Briggs." The man said into his phone, "Initiate Phase 2. The voice on the other end replied coldly, "No loose ends." The sun hadn't yet risen over Lake Travis, but Tyler was already outside, axe in hand, splitting wood. The rhythmic crack of cedar was the only sound breaking the dense morning silence. Each strike echoed like a war drum. He wasn't splitting wood for warmth. He needed something to do while his mind raced through everything they had discovered. Inside the cabin, Emily sat at the rough-hewn dining table, surrounded by hard drives, photos, and files. Her laptop glowed faintly in the dim room. Rex lay at her feet, but he wasn't resting. His ears twitched at every sound, outside, always alert, always guarding. Tyler returned, sweat clinging to his shirt. He grabbed a bottle of water and leaned over Emily's shoulder. "Anything?" She shook her head, scrolling through a set of time-stamped surveillance clips. "Just scraps. Most of the footage from the warehouse fire was either wiped or corrupted." Tyler sat across from her, wiping his face. They knew what they were doing. They covered their tracks. Emily clicked open another folder. But they missed one thing. She enlarged a grainy image. A man in military fatigues stood near a metal kennel, clipboard in hand, his face partially visible. On his right wrist, a distinctive black tattoo of a dagger wrapped in barbed wire. "I've seen that tattoo before," Tyler said, leaning closer. "That's Whitaker, Lieutenant Colonel James Whitaker, Special Tactics Division." Emily nodded. The guy who signed off on the op report declaring Rex dead. Silence fell over them. "He lied," Tyler said. "No," Emily replied, eyes cold. "He buried him alive." Suddenly Rex stood up, tail rigid, gaze fixed on the cabin door. Then came a knock. 3 sharp raps. Tyler froze. No one should have been able to find them. He motioned for Emily to move into the back room, grabbing his weapon quietly. Rex didn't bark. He stood beside Tyler like a soldier ready to breach. Tyler cracked the door. An old man stood outside, wearing a faded Marine Corps jacket and mirrored sunglasses. "Name's Harlan," the man said calmly. "I served with your father." Tyler narrowed his eyes. "My father died in Iraq." "I know, I was there. He saved my life. I owed him. That's why I'm here." Rex stepped forward, sniffed the man's boots, then, shockingly, sat down beside him. Emily returned, hesitant. "How did you find us?" "I've been off-grid since 2012. Harlan said, "But when I saw the video of your dog at that shelter, I recognized him." Emily stiffened. "That video only aired locally." Harlan smiled faintly. "Yeah, but there's always someone watching." He reached into his coat slowly and pulled out a flash drive. "This was supposed to be destroyed. It's from an off-site facility in Wyoming. Groom Lake level quiet. You'll want to see what they did to your dog." Tyler took it and plugged it into Emily's laptop. The screen flickered, then opened to a series of classified documents and grainy lab footage. The first file was labeled Project REX-17. They watched in silence. In the footage, Rex, younger, unscarred, was in a concrete enclosure, electrodes attached to his head. A man in a lab coat held up scent samples, chemicals, narcotics, accelerants. Rex identified each with chilling precision. Then it showed him tracking through a simulated war zone, dodging tripwires, even responding to silent hand gestures. The final clip was the worst. A mock hostage scenario. Rex was sent in alone. They fired live, rounds at him. Rex didn't flinch. He neutralized the threats with precise takedowns, then returned to the entry point, waiting for a command that never came. Emily blinked back tears. They trained him for war, then threw him away. They tried to turn him into a weapon, Harlan said, voice tight. But he never stopped being a dog. That's why they failed. Tyler looked at Rex, who now lay with his head on his paws, eyes fixed on the screen. "This was never about one op," Tyler said. "This was about control. They used the warehouse raid as a smokescreen," Emily added. "They staged the fire to erase everything, but Rex got out." "And now," Harlan said, "Whitaker's scrambling. Because if Rex is alive, so is everything he tried to bury." Suddenly, Emily's laptop buzzed. A pop-up window opened. An incoming message. "No sender. Stop digging or you'll join him." Then the image of a coffin. Closed. Unlabeled. Then the screen went black. Tyler slammed the lid shut. "They're watching us." Emily stood, shaking. "That signal was traced. We have maybe 10 minutes. Harlan pulled out a set of old road maps. "There's a safe house in Bastrop. My old friend Caroline runs it. Former intelligence. She'll hide you." Tyler grabbed a bag. "We move now." They didn't wait. Within minutes, the truck roared to life again. Rex was in the back seat, tense but silent. As they drove through winding roads and thick woods, Tyler glanced at him through the rearview mirror. You remembered everything, he whispered. They tried to break you, and you remembered us anyway. Rex met his gaze in the mirror, then turned his head toward the dark woods outside, alert as ever. As they neared Bastrop, Tyler slowed the truck. There was smoke, billowing up into the night sky. When they reached the address Harlan had scribbled, all that was left of Caroline's safe house was ash and flame. Fire trucks hadn't even arrived. Tyler killed the engine, staring in disbelief. They got here first, Emily said quietly. They're not playing anymore, Harlan muttered. Suddenly, Rex growled. Deep, relentless. Tyler reached for his weapon again. We need a new plan. Emily looked toward the flames, eyes burning. Number, we need to end this. And somewhere far away, in an underground facility humming with cold air and colder men, Whitaker watched the fire footage with clenched fists. He turned to his assistant. Send the retrieval team. Target, the dog. No, Whitaker said, eyes narrowing. Target, all of them. The ashes of the safe house were still warm when the wind shifted, carrying the stench of scorched earth and burned secrets into the forest. Tyler stood at the edge of the tree line, weapon drawn, scanning for movement. The flickering blaze cast shadows that danced across his face, jaw clenched, nerves raw. Behind him, Emily was rifling through the debris, ignoring the heat blistering her hands. She was looking for any trace that Caroline had made it out, but it was futile. She knew this could happen. Harlan said, his voice rough. She was a soldier. She wouldn't want us wasting time grieving. Tyler didn't answer. Neither did Emily. The only sound came from Rex, pacing beside the smouldering wreckage, nose twitching. His movements were sharp, calculated. Then, abruptly, he stopped. He lifted a paw and let out a low, guttural growl. Contact, Tyler whispered. A flash of metal in the trees. Shots rang out. Tyler shoved Emily behind a rusted water tank. Harlan fired 2 clean rounds toward the shooter, dropping one of them with a sharp thud. Rex was gone in a blur, charging toward the sound of movement without hesitation. Rex! Emily called, heart in her throat. From the woods came a scream, then silence. Moments later, Rex emerged, dragging a gloved forearm in his jaws. The man it belonged to was unconscious, blood seeping into the earth. Rex dropped him at Tyler's feet and stepped back, chest heaving. No barking, just precision, purpose. Emily crouched and ripped the man's mask off. He was young, maybe 20. No ID, just a barcode tattoo behind his ear. Ghost unit, Harlan muttered. Disposable assets, off book. Tyler picked up the man's earpiece and tuned it manually. Static. Then a voice. Team Delta, report. Do you have the asset? Tyler pressed the push to talk. Not anymore. Then he crushed the earpiece under his boot. Emily stood, brushing ash from her jeans. They're not just after Rex. They're tying up loose ends. Which means we're next, Tyler said. Rex let out a single sharp bark. Emily turned. He was standing over a melted hard drive, still half intact. Beneath it, something was hidden in the rubble, something wrapped in heat-resistant foil. Tyler pulled it free and unwrapped it. A leather-bound journal, handwritten. Inside were coordinates, maps, and names. Names of men tied to Project REX-17, all signed under one heading, Oversight Committee. Whitaker's name was first. Emily's hands trembled. This is evidence. Enough to go public. Tyler looked up. Not yet. If we go to the press without protection, they'll spin it. We'll be painted as terrorists. So what's the play? Harlan asked. We get leverage, Tyler said. We find someone on that list, someone still alive, someone scared enough to talk. Emily flipped pages until one name jumped out. Dr. Isaac Brenner, a neuroscientist, once contracted by the Department of Defense. Now off-grid for over a year. Last known location. Flagstaff, Arizona. Harlan exhaled. That's a long haul. Tyler nodded. Then we better get moving. The drive across the desert was long, silent, and tense. Rex rested his head on Emily's lap, his eyes tracking every mile of desolate highway. She ran her fingers through his fur, the scars on his back more visible in the sunlight. She hated what they had done to him, hated the silence he carried like a weight. At a gas station just outside Sedona, Harlan stepped out to fill the tank. Tyler stood by the pump, stretching his legs, when his burner phone vibrated. A text. "I'm not your enemy. No number, just text." Then another. "Meet me alone. Red Rock Overlook. 30 minutes, or the dog dies." Tyler froze. Emily noticed the shift in his expression instantly. "What is it?" He hesitated. "Someone wants to talk. Alone." "No," she snapped. "That's a setup." He showed her the message. Her face paled. Tyler leaned against the hood, brain racing. "If they knew where we were, they would have hit us already. Or they want you to lead them to Brenna." Rex growled softly, low and steady, his gaze locked on Tyler. "I'll go," Tyler said finally, "but I'm not going unarmed." Harlan handed him a second piece. "I'll follow from a ridge. If they try anything." "I know," Tyler said. "Make it count." Red Rock Overlook was empty. Just open sky, red canyon walls, and the sound of wind howling through the rocks. Tyler approached slowly, eyes scanning every shadow. Then a figure stepped out. A woman. Mid-40s, tactical gear under a desert jacket. Her face was lined but sharp. "Name's Shaw," she said. "Used to run logistics for Whitaker, until he tried to burn me." Tyler didn't lower his guard. "Why contact me?" "Because I want him gone, and because you're the only one with the dog." Tyler narrowed his eyes. "Why does everyone care so much about a dog?" Shaw didn't flinch. "Because Rex wasn't just trained. He remembers everything. He saw what happened in that lab in Nevada, who was there, what they tested. He's the last living piece of a failed black project. And he's more dangerous to them than you are." Tyler stepped closer. "Why tell me this?" "Because Whitaker's running out of time, and he's getting desperate. I've got access to his shadow network. You want him? I'll help. But you better be ready." He stared at her, weighing the offer. Rex had followed Tyler's scent to the top of the ridge. He stood perfectly still behind a boulder, watching Shaw, eyes unblinking. Suddenly she looked toward the dog. "I trained him once," she said quietly, "before they took him from me." Tyler's jaw clenched. "You were part of it?" "I got out. Regretted it every day since." From the ridge, Harlan's scope watched it all. Tyler finally nodded. "You help us find Brenna. You help us bring Whitaker down. Then you disappear." Shaw gave a sad smile. "You're asking for the impossible." Tyler walked away. "Then you're the right person for the job." Rex fell into step beside him. And deep in the desert night, miles away, Whitaker stood inside a server room, watching satellite footage of the meeting at Red Rock. "Shaw just resurfaced," the technician said. Whitaker stared at the screen. "She's playing both sides. Should we eliminate her?" "No," Whitaker said. "Let her believe she's in control." Then he smiled coldly. "She's leading them straight to me." The desert wind howled as the battered SUV crept up a dirt path leading to a long abandoned compound in the outskirts of Flagstaff. The location matched the one in the journal. Dr. Isaac Brenner's last known address, now nearly swallowed by wild brush and time. The windows were boarded up. The chain-link fence was rusted, twisted in places like someone had once tried to claw their way out. Emily parked behind a rock outcropping and cut the engine. Tyler loaded his sidearm. Harlan checked the perimeter with his drone. Rex sat perfectly still in the back seat, his eyes locked on the front gate. He didn't wag his tail, He didn't flinch. His instincts were kicking in again. "He's alert," Emily whispered, glancing at Rex. Tyler nodded. "Which means someone's here." They moved in formation. Tyler took point. Emily watched the flanks. Harlan brought up the rear with a suppressed rifle. Rex led them through a hole in the fence like he'd been here before. Inside the compound, the air was stale, thick with the smell of mold and gun oil. They stepped over scattered research papers and cracked glass. Most of the equipment had been stripped clean. Then Rex stopped in front of a heavy steel door, sniffed once, and gave a quiet, throaty whine. "There," Emily said. Tyler approached. The keypad was old school, but someone had tried to disable it with a screwdriver. It was hanging half loose. Tyler pried it open, crossed a few wires, and with a click, the door creaked inward. A cold draft rushed out. Inside, a man in his 60s stood hunched over a cluttered table of old drives, printouts, and vials. White hair, lab coat, hands trembling. He didn't even turn. "You weren't supposed to find me," Dr. Isaac Brenner said, voice dry and cracked. Tyler kept his weapon lowered. "We didn't come to kill you. We need answers." "I burned the files. They were never supposed to surface." "Too late," Emily said. Rex remembered. At the sound of the name, Brenner finally looked up and froze. His face went pale. "That's not possible." Rex stepped forward, eyes locked on him, not growling, not attacking, just watching. Brenner stumbled back, bracing himself against the table. He was terminated. That's what I was told." "You were lied to," Tyler said. "You were all expendable." Brenner collapsed into a chair. "They used him for a memory tracing trial, real-time imprinting during trauma. We injected him with something experimental. His cognitive centers lit up like a damn Christmas tree." Emily stiffened. "Wait, are you saying he can recognize people from years ago? Scenes, faces?" "Not just recognize. He recalls. He pieces things together. Not instinct. Memory. You understand what that means?" Brenner's voice cracked. "He's a witness." "To what?" Tyler asked. Brenner reached into a box under the desk and pulled out a single microchip. To the night it all went wrong. To the fire. To the murders. He glanced at Rex. And to Whitaker. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. Harlan's voice barked over the comm. "We've got inbound. Black van, no plates, four-armed, 15 seconds. "Move," Tyler ordered. Emily grabbed Brenner. "Is there a back exit?" "No," Brenner wheezed. "Just the utility tunnel, through the floor." Rex pawed at a panel near the furnace, scratching once, then stepping back. Tyler yanked the metal up. A dark shaft stretched beneath. "Get in," Tyler told Brenner. "Move." They dropped down just as bullets shattered the windows above. Rex was last in. He didn't hesitate. The tunnel was narrow, lined with old copper pipes and reeking of decay. They moved fast, crawling in sections, weapons drawn. Behind them, footsteps echoed above. "They're in," Emily whispered. "They won't follow the dog." Harlan said, "They'll wait to flush us." Brenner gasped for breath. "They know I talked. We're all dead." "No," Tyler said. "You're going to live long enough to testify." 10 minutes later, they emerged into a drainage basin half a mile from the compound. Tyler hauled Brenner out. Rex was already scanning the tree line. "We need a safe house," Emily said. "We can't go back to Sedona. Not after this." "I know a place," Harlan said. "Old contact up north. Trustworthy. Ex-CIA. They loaded back into the SUV and peeled away down the canyon road." Brenner slumped in the back, staring at Rex like he was seeing a ghost. "I tried to save him," he murmured. "But Whitaker didn't want a smart dog. He wanted a weapon." "He got both," Emily said coldly. They drove in silence for a while. Then Rex sat up sharply. His ears twitched, and suddenly he barked. Not loud, just one time. Tyler's phone vibrated, another anonymous text. The girl, Carolyn, she's alive. His blood went cold. He turned to Harlan. Pull over. What? Do it. They skidded to a stop. Tyler jumped out, checked the GPS location embedded in the message. It was a ping, a live location, just 30 miles away, south towards Sedona. She didn't die in that fire, Tyler said. They took her. Why? Emily asked. Brenner answered. She worked on the imprinting protocols. She knew how to unlock what was buried in Rex. Tyler looked at the dog. Rex had turned toward the desert horizon, his eyes locked on the setting sun. Then we go get her. Rex let out a deep growl. No fear, just purpose. The rain started just as the sun dipped behind the hills, casting long shadows across the twisted road to Dry Rock Canyon. Tyler gripped the steering wheel, his jaw tight, knuckles white. Emily sat beside him, watching the map flicker on the cracked screen of Harlan's tablet. In the back seat, Dr. Brenner clutched a duffel bag with the encrypted hard drive inside, his eyes darting nervously between the windows. Rex sat beside him, upright and alert. His ears twitched every time the wind howled, but he didn't move. His stillness wasn't fear, it was focus. He knew where they were going. More importantly, he knew why. They've got her inside a facility near the canyon's edge, Harlan said from the third row, loading a fresh magazine into his rifle. Privately owned, no official listing, black budget stuff. You wouldn't find it on Google Earth even if you tried. Emily turned. You're sure Caroline's there? The tracker pinged twice. Same location. Then it went dark. That means she's either out of range or someone realized she was tagged. Brenner's voice was quiet. If she's still alive, they won't keep her long. Not if they think we're close. Tyler slammed on the brakes. They'd reached a narrow pull-off covered in brush. Below, the canyon yawned open, steep and silent. Everyone out, he said. They moved quickly, pulling gear from the back of the SUV. Kevlar, comms, night vision. Rex stood near the edge, nose raised, then turned and looked at Tyler with sharp purpose. No fear, just waiting. You're leading us in, buddy, Tyler whispered. They started down the ridge using an old service trail. Rex led the way, occasionally pausing, sniffing, then adjusting direction. The man-made path eventually gave way to rock and brush. Harlan brought up the drone, but a jamming signal forced it back almost immediately. They've got signal dampers. This is a real op, he said. We're flying blind. That's when Rex froze. A low growl rumbled deep in his chest. Tyler raised a fist. Everyone halted. Then they heard it, metal scraping against gravel, flashlights in the trees, voices muffled by earpieces. 2-man patrol, 10 o'clock. Emily whispered. Mercs by the look of them. Tyler didn't hesitate. He signaled a wide flank, and the team split. Rex stayed with Emily, his movements perfectly in sync with hers. As the 2 guards passed, one reached for a smoke. That's when Rex lunged. No bark, no warning, just a flash of fur and teeth. The guard dropped instantly, throat silenced. Emily tackled the second, covering his mouth before he could scream, then slammed the butt of her rifle into his temple. Tyler checked both bodies. Clean. No comms sent out. Harlan dragged them into the brush. They continued down the ridge until the facility came into view, an angular bunker half built into the canyon wall, surrounded by motion sensors and a perimeter fence pulsing faint blue. Brenner, how do we get in? Tyler asked. There's a drainage tunnel, the doctor said. Runs under the east end. Used to be an emergency access before they sealed most of it off. Can Rex fit? Through? Brenner nodded. He'll be the first one in. They circled the perimeter. The rain had turned into a downpour, masking their movement. At the far edge they found a rusted grate overgrown with vines. Tyler and Harlan worked it loose. Rex didn't wait. The moment there was space, he slipped inside. It was pitch black and cramped, but he moved with certainty, sniffing the air, navigating tight corners until he paused at a wall of metal mesh. He barked once, low and sharp. On the other side was a control room, empty, humming with power. Emily followed close, clipped the mesh with bolt cutters, and they were through. Inside, the place reeked of chemicals and disinfectant. A cold blue light bathed the hallway. Surveillance cameras whirred silently in the corners. Rex turned suddenly, nose pressed to the floor. "Carolyn's scent," Emily whispered. "He's on it." They followed as Rex moved through corridors like he'd drawn the map himself. He stopped outside a reinforced door, sniffed once, and let out a high-pitched whine. "She's in there," Tyler said. But before he could breach, alarms blared. Red strobes exploded across the ceiling. A voice crackled over the intercom. "Unauthorized breach in sublevel C. Contain and eliminate." "Move!" Tyler shouted. Harlan rigged a charge. "Step back." Boom! The door burst open. Inside, a woman was strapped to a gurney, IVs in her arms, eyes fluttering. "Caroline!" Tyler ran to her, yanking the wires off. She blinked, weak but alive. "Ty, I got you," he said. But Rex didn't move toward her. He was facing the door. Another noise. This one louder. Boots. 6, maybe 8. Mercenaries swarmed the hallway, shouting commands. Rex didn't wait. He charged. He slammed into the first soldier, ripping into his arm, flipping him backward. Emily and Harlan opened fire. Chaos erupted. Muzzle flashes lit the corridor. Tyler shielded Caroline with his body as bullets tore into the walls. Rex moved like a shadow, fast and brutal, taking out one guard, then another. Blood hit the walls. Screams followed. Then silence. Rex stood at the far end of the hallway, chest heaving, muzzle stained, but eyes locked on Tyler. All clear. Tyler carried Caroline out, Harlan covering the rear. They raced through the tunnels, alarms still blaring, Rex the last to exit, pausing at the threshold before leaping into the night. Back in the SUV, Caroline lay wrapped in a blanket, her voice barely above a whisper. "They wanted to wipe him," she said, "his memory, his instincts. But he remembered me. Even sedated, he found me." She looked down at Rex, now curled beside her, head resting on her leg. He didn't forget. Tyler nodded. Neither did we. The hideout was a forgotten ranger station, buried in the pines 3 hours north of Dry Rock Canyon. Inside, its faded maps and rusting tools gave it the feel of a time capsule. But that night, it became a war room. Caroline lay on the worn leather couch, pale but stronger. A steaming mug of herbal tea trembled slightly in her hand. Rex lay beside her, never more than a few inches from her side. Every time she stirred, he lifted his head. Every time she winced, he leaned in closer. Tyler paced across the floorboards, watching through the narrow window. Harlan and Emily were hunched over a table, schematics and hard drives scattered across its surface. Caroline's voice was soft but steady. I saw what they were working on. Project Sable wasn't just about control. It was about weaponization. They weren't trying to erase Rex's memory. They wanted to hijack it, clone his instincts, bottle his aggression, and upload it into other dogs. Hundreds of them. Tyler turned sharply. Combat units. Worse, she said. Surveillance, crowd control, assassinations. These weren't dogs anymore. They were prototypes. Emily leaned forward. And you were the only one who objected. I built the software. They just rewired it. Harlan scoffed. And the people funding it? Private, shadow accounts, some overseas, some buried under fake shell companies in DC. Can you name names? Tyler asked. Caroline hesitated. Only one. She slid a folder across the table. Tyler opened it. a grainy photo of a clean-shaven man in a tailored suit. The name below it made the air go cold. Senator Douglas Wexler. Wexler? Emily's voice cracked. He sits on the Defense Oversight Committee. Caroline nodded. He's been laundering contracts through defense budgets for years. I tried to confront him. That's when I was taken. Jesus, Tyler muttered. Suddenly Rex stood up, tail rigid, ears perked. A faint hum, then a thud outside. Harlan rushed to the door, rifle in hand. Tyler flanked him, signaling Caroline to stay down. Another thud, then silence. They burst out the door, rifles aimed. A drone, not one of theirs. It hovered for a moment, then zipped away into the trees. They found us, Harlan said. No, Emily corrected, checking her tablet. They already knew. That drone was scanning. Tyler cursed under his breath. We've got maybe 10 minutes before Boots hit the trail. Back inside, chaos kicked in. Brenner yanked out backup drives. Caroline limped to her feet, pocketing USBs and files. Tyler grabbed the emergency radios. They were almost ready to go when a voice crackled through the radio. Come out, Tyler. Bring the dog. They all froze. The voice wasn't from a guard. It was from someone they hadn't heard in over 2 years. Major Luke Harrow, Tyler's old commanding officer, the man who'd ordered Rex into that final op. The same op where Caroline had disappeared. Caroline's face went white. No way, Emily said. He's dead. We heard he was killed in Bolivia. Tyler stepped toward the window, staring into the dark. He's not dead. He's been hiding, working with Wexler, maybe even above him. Rex growled, low and steady. Another message. Bring me the dog, Tyler, and I'll let her live. Silence fell like a hammer. Caroline looked at Rex, her throat tightening. He's bluffing. No, Tyler said. He's hunting. Emily turned. Then we give him a decoy. We split. Fake trail. No time, Harlan said, glancing at his watch. They'll be on top of us in minutes. Caroline stepped forward. Then let me end this. Everyone turned to her. I go to them, with Rex. They want us alive, for now. I buy time, you take the data and get it out. Go public. Tyler shook his head. Absolutely not. She looked at Rex. He'll protect me. Rex stared into her eyes, as if he understood every word. I trained him for the worst, she said, but he chose better. Now we have to trust him to finish it. There was a long pause. Finally, Tyler nodded. They drove through the forest on blackout mode, headlights off, following the moonlight through the trees. At a clearing near an abandoned mine, Caroline stepped out with Rex at her side. She turned back to the group. No matter what happens, she said, you have to finish it. Rex turned his head, locking eyes with Tyler, and then he walked beside her into the clearing. Moments later, a convoy of black SUVs rolled up from the opposite ridge. Soldiers poured out. And there he was, Major Harrow, alive, unscarred, flanked by mercenaries in unmarked gear. Caroline, he said, smiling, still loyal to your pet? She didn't flinch. More loyal than you ever were to your oath. Behind her, Rex stood tall, unmoving, watching. But just as Harrow raised a hand to signal his men, Rex's ears twitched. A different scent, a familiar voice. Now, Caroline whispered. And all hell broke loose. The clearing erupted in a chaotic blur of motion and gunfire. Harrow's men advanced fast, forming a loose perimeter, but they weren't prepared for what happened next. Rex bolted. Not blindly, not out of fear, with precision. He darted across the clearing, low to the ground, weaving through shadows and disorienting the soldiers before they could track him. A flash of black and tan. A blur. Then gone. Caroline hit the dirt just as a round pinged off a tree behind her. She rolled behind a fallen log and reached into her coat pocket, pulling out a slim transmitter. She jammed it into the ground. Its LED blinked twice. Activated. Back on the ridge, Tyler's team received the signal. Instantly, Emily hit the keys on her laptop. A pulse broadcast shot through the drone network, frying Harrow's surveillance feeds. "Signal scrambled. We've got 90 seconds," she said. Tyler nodded, speaking into the comms. "Light it up." From across the canyon, 2 homemade EMP charges, buried days earlier as insurance, detonated with a dull thud. The SUV's engines died, radios fizzled. Night vision goggles went black. Confusion rippled through the enemy ranks, and that's when Rex came back. From the tree line, he launched himself at the nearest soldier, hitting him center mass. The man went down with a grunt, weapon flying. Before anyone else could react, Rex had already moved. Another soldier, another takedown. His movements were calculated, measured, not wild, but tactical. Like he'd been trained for this exact moment. Because he had been. Carolyn made a break for it. She sprinted across the clearing, dodging a volley of shots, and dove behind a rusted-out truck. She ripped open the door, revealing a small satchel hidden beneath the seat. She clipped it to her belt. That satchel held everything: names, accounts, encrypted backups of the entire Project Sable network. Evidence Wexler and Harrow never expected to see daylight again. Suddenly, a boot slammed down in front of her. A hand yanked her up by the collar. "Harrow!" His face was red, lips curled with fury. "You always thought you were smarter than the system." She stared him down. "I didn't have to be smarter. I just had to survive." He raised his pistol. A growl sliced through the air. Then Rex was there. Not barking, not attacking, just standing. Between Caroline and the gun. Harrow hesitated. Just a second. But that was all Rex needed. He leapt, jaws clamping down on Harrow's wrist. The gun flew from his hand. Caroline ducked as they crashed to the ground. Harrow screamed, trying to shove Rex off, but Rex didn't let go until Harrow was disarmed and pinned. Tyler arrived seconds later, flanked by Harlan and Emily. Guns drawn. Harrow froze. "Step away from the dog," Tyler said, voice sharp. Harrow raised his hands, blood dripping, fury in his eyes. "You don't get it, do you? This won't end with me. They'll keep coming." Emily stepped forward, holding up her phone. "Smile. You're live." A second of silence. Then realization. A small blinking light on the phone confirmed it. They'd streamed everything. The threats, the confrontation, the name drops. Dozens of independent journalists and watchdog accounts had just picked it up. Harrow's arrogance cracked. Rex stepped off him, chest heaving, eyes never leaving Harrow's face. Caroline collapsed to her knees beside Rex, running a hand over his fur. He licked her cheek once, gently, then rested his head against her shoulder. Back at the shelter in Mesa Creek, the volunteer staff gathered around a cracked TV in the break room, watching the feed play out. One of the interns wiped her eyes. "That's Rex," she whispered. The shelter manager, old, grizzled, skeptical of hope, nodded slowly. "That's one hell of a dog." By morning, Senator Wexler's name was trending nationally. Whistleblower documents hit public networks. The Defense Department scrambled. Hearings were called. Harrow was taken into federal custody. But more than all that, the image that stayed with people wasn't just the scandal. It was the photo snapped in the early hours after the takedown. Caroline, blooded but smiling, leaning on Rex. And Rex, upright and proud, eyes full of clarity. The caption underneath read, "He waited 2 years. And then he saved the world." But Rex didn't care about headlines. He only cared that Caroline was safe. The courtroom was packed, not with press or politicians this time, but with ordinary people, veterans, whistleblowers, shelter workers, teachers, farmers, people who had followed the headlines and finally saw someone stand up to the machine. And at the center of it all was Caroline, wearing a simple black blazer, Rex sitting upright at her feet, his badge clipped to his collar. The judge, a composed woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a reputation for zero tolerance on corruption, cleared her throat. Before we proceed with the charges against Mr. Harrow and the review of the evidence on Project Sable, this court recognizes the unprecedented contribution of Ms. Caroline Vega and her partner, K9 Rex. Applause broke out. Not polite, courtroom-style claps. Real applause, a rising wave of gratitude and defiance that shook the walls. Harrow, shackled and guarded, sneered from the defense bench. "You think any of this matters? You think they'll let you win?" Caroline turned to face him. "Number, I think they already lost the second they underestimated a shelter dog." Laughter rippled through the room. But Caroline wasn't joking. She stepped forward with a flash drive in hand and placed it on the evidence table. "This contains a full backup of Project Sable, procurement logs, covert operations, bribes, and communications, including a directive to eliminate anyone involved in the intel leak. That includes the attempt on my life and the poisoning of K9 units used for field testing." Gasps filled the courtroom. Rex shifted at her side, alert, sensing the energy. The judge narrowed her eyes. "Defense, would you care to respond?" Harrow's lawyer, a sleek, overly confident man in an expensive suit, stood up slowly. "Your Honor, I move to suppress this evidence on the basis that it was illegally obtained and that Ms. Vega has a personal vendetta." He never finished the sentence, because the courtroom doors opened. In walked a man, older, in uniform, Distinguished Service Cross pinned to his chest. Everyone fell silent. General Thomas Eddington, retired. He walked with a cane but with unmistakable authority. He made his way to the witness stand and raised a shaky hand. "I'd like to testify," he said. "On record." Harrow froze. His lawyer turned pale. Eddington looked at Carolyn, then at Rex. "I was part of Project Sable's original oversight team. We were told it was a logistics enhancement operation. But I saw things, and when I asked questions, I was forced out quietly." He looked down, gathering his words. "But this dog saved my granddaughter last year. He found her when she went missing in a forest during winter. That's how I recognized him on the news. Same markings, same eyes, same heart." Caroline felt her throat tighten. Eddington looked directly at the judge. "If that dog can survive 2 years in a shelter, survive betrayal, and still come out protecting the very people who discarded him, then this country needs to listen. And clean house, starting here." The courtroom erupted again, louder this time. The judge banged her gavel, but her face softened. "Motion to suppress denied. We will proceed." Harrow slammed his fists on the table. "You can't do this. I am the government." "No," the judge said coolly. "You were the problem." Outside, a group of kids held signs. "Justice for Rex," "Shelter dogs save lives," and "We believe in whistleblowers." News cameras panned across them, broadcasting the movement Caroline never meant to start, but couldn't stop now. As Caroline stepped out of the courthouse, Rex by her side, she was met with a sea of faces. Some cheering, some crying, all changed. One boy approached hesitantly. He was maybe 10, with oversized glasses and a cast on his arm. He crouched next to Rex. "Hi, buddy," he whispered. "I saw you on the internet. You're a real hero." Rex leaned forward and gently licked the boy's cast. The crowd melted. Caroline crouched beside them. "What's your name?" "Eli." "Well, Eli, this guy didn't give up when people forgot him. So you can't give up either, okay?" Eli nodded, eyes wide. "Okay." Caroline stood, tears stinging her eyes for the first time in days. Not from fear, from release, from knowing something bigger than revenge had taken root. As Rex nudged her hand, she looked down at him. We're not done, are we? Rex gave a quiet huff. No bark, just that steady gaze, unshaken, ready. Because heroes don't just finish the story, they start new ones. 3 months later, the shelter was different. Where once the air had hung heavy with silence and resignation, now it buzzed with purpose. New kennels had been installed, volunteers bustled with donated supplies, and every dog wore a name tag. No more numbers. Carolyn stood in the middle of it all, Rex at her side, tail swaying slow and steady like he owned the place. Because in many ways he did. Behind them, a mural was being painted on the outer wall. It showed Rex in bold, proud strokes, ears high, eyes alert, facing the horizon. Below him, the words, "Every soul deserves a second chance." Carolyn smiled softly as the last strokes were added. The shelter had been renamed too, the Rex Initiative. Not just a rescue, but a movement, a pledge. "Caroline," called Jenna, one of the new teen volunteers. "That reporter's back. Wants another interview." Caroline chuckled. "Tell her we're booked solid. We're training dogs, not making celebrities." But she gave in and walked over, Rex trotting at her heel. The reporter, mics in hand, asked, "After everything that's happened, do you think justice was truly served?" Caroline didn't answer right away. She looked at Rex, at his scars, at the way he sat now, not in fear, but in command. "I don't think justice is something you reach. It's something you build every day, with every choice, with every dog someone said wasn't worth saving." She turned to the camera. "If you're watching this and thinking you can't make a difference, you're wrong. Rex was thrown away, forgotten, but he changed the system. Not because he barked the loudest, but because he never gave up." The reporter lowered the mic, visibly moved. "What's next for you two?" Caroline scratched behind Rex's ear. "We've got 24 dogs on a waiting list for training, and a school visit next week." "Is Rex ready for the spotlight again?" Caroline laughed. "Rex doesn't need a spotlight. He is the light." That night, as the shelter lights dimmed and the last kennel door was locked, Caroline sat on the front steps with Rex beside her. The stars overhead shimmered like they knew something the rest of the world hadn't yet caught up to. She whispered, "You ready for whatever's next, partner?" Rex lifted his head, ears perked at the distant sound of laughter and music from the town square. He gave a soft bark, then rested his head on her knee. And for the first time in years, everything felt exactly where it was supposed to be. If you were moved by Rex's story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, German Shepherd. Help us spread real stories of courage, loyalty, and redemption. Because every voice matters, especially the ones that can't speak for themselves.